So Kakashi versus Jiraya. The reason why I think this would be a pretty interesting fight is that they both technically lost to Pain pretty badly. So in order to be fair to Jiraya, I'm going to take Kakashi during the Pain arc, because that's when Jiraya, and we're going to see who would probably win this fight. Given the fact that they both lost to Pain, this gives us a very good indicator of how well they stack against each other. And it's actually it's not as one-sided as you might think at first. Okay, so a lot of people think that Kakashi stomps because of kamui hacks, but obviously we know that he cannot spam kamui at this point. He's drained after such little usage of his chakra. We can't really use the DMS Kakashi feats because that's later on, that's past the Pain arc, after he's already overcome some of these kamui obstacles, and he has 2 Sharingan, so that doesn't really count. Some people say that Jiraya wins because of the statement that Kisame said to Itachi on how Jiraya would beat both of them, and how Itachi stomped Kakashi early in the series. This is complete BS. This does not work at all, because Kisame had no indication of what Itachi's true strength was, and he probably would have blown Jiraiya out of the water at that point. That technically has no bearing. Outside of that, let's talk about their individual jutsus and feats, and then let's talk about how they did against Pain and who we think would win in a fight, right? So, in his base form, Jiraiya has a lot of pretty basic ninjutsu, and he's pretty good at taijutsu. He has the porcupine needle stuff. He's got several toad techniques. He has that one where he put Kisame and Jiraiya in the stomach of a toad. He's got toad oil bullet, some jutsus that looked kind of like just a fire style fireball jutsu, but like with different naming, like flame bullet or something like that. And on top of that, he has the classic Rasengan, which is proven to be stronger than the Chidori, which is one of Kakashi's fortes and go-tos. When we see the strike between Naruto and Sasuke, where they hit the water tanks, and Naruto's did way more damage than Sasuke's. So we can clearly see that the Rasengan is a stronger technique, and it's one of Jiraiya's fortes. You got to keep in mind this is a very, very difficult jutsu to learn. Took the 4th Hokage like 3 years to make. But something interesting to note is that Kakashi has stated that he can also use this ability too. On top of that, Jiraiya can also summon a bunch of toads, and Gamabunta, the chief toad, Ma and Pa, which all proved to be a huge help in battle, especially during the fight. Especially if you remember the fight where Gaara turned into Shukaku. Chief Toad was a huge help during that time. And you gotta keep in mind that Shukaku is literally a tailed beast. Also, with Ma and Pa, Jiraiya has access to Sage Mode, which gives him a variety of other abilities that he can use. A bunch of Sage Art abilities, such as mixing oil and fire to make a new type of jutsu. He becomes overall much more powerful and faster. Essentially, all his stats are increased because he doesn't have perfect Sage Mode. He does look a little bit like a toad, but that's why he has Ma and Pa on his shoulders. And a very interesting one is that he actually has a Toad Genjutsu, which affected some of the paths of Pain, which did an insane amount of damage, and is super effective, especially when facing one opponent or a couple other opponents. But he wasn't aware of all the paths of Pain, so obviously he couldn't do it to all of them at once. Jiraiya is definitely a force to be reckoned with. And moving on, we have Kakashi. We're sticking to the Pain arc Kakashi, so we're going to use some feats from then and prior. Obviously, he's the copy ninjas, copied thousands of jutsu. He's got the Sharingan. At this point, he's got the Mangekyo Sharingan, which gives him access to Kamui, which is one he tries not to use it because he doesn't have an influx of chakra coming in. And he's not an Uchiha, so his Sharingan is already draining his chakra, but he seemed to have overcome that to some extent by the time he reaches the Pain arc. He has the Chidori, which is almost as powerful as the Rasengan, but not quite. He has some of his own summons, but they're dogs, and they're much smaller, and they're mostly used for tracking. They're not nearly as powerful as Jiraiya's. But he's an expert in taijutsu, expert strategist, expert in ninjutsu. Absolutely insane. He's got fireball jutsu. He's got it all. He's also very good with a shadow clone jutsu, which he uses very strategically in many fights that he takes part in. Earth style, shadow clones, he's got it all. Jiraiya technically beats 3 of the paths of Pain in Sage Mode, but he loses when the whole squad pulls up. So essentially, he's no match for the Diva path, but he can take some of the other paths, especially one-on-one. And all things considered, he did pretty good, not gonna lie, at first, but then he obviously got stomped later. Now, Kakashi lost pretty quickly too, but he was primarily facing against the Diva path, which again is like a tank, which neither Kakashi or Jiraiya it seemed like either one of them would be able to take. Now, let's kind of pit them up against each other now, right? Now, I'm not gonna lie to you, I see more scenarios than not Kakashi beating Jiraiya, and here's why. First of all, we gotta keep in mind that Jiraiya did that good because he was in Sage Mode, right? I don't even know if Kakashi, it depends if they're bloodlust or not, but I don't even think Kakashi would let Jiraiya summon in those toads, right? He probably wouldn't even give him the chance, and even if he did, he could potentially use kamui to get rid of one or two of them. Especially if he uses Chief Toad, I do not see a scenario where Kakashi does not use kamui to a certain extent to get rid of the Toad. Jiraya could try trapping Kakashi in the frog stomach, but again, Kakashi can use kamui to escape. We gotta keep in mind that he can't spam all of these while Jiraya technically can, but knowing this, Kakashi wouldn't just run the clock, you know? Now, both of them are expert strategists, but I never see Jiraya using Shadow Clones to the extent that Kakashi does in order to get behind his opponent or to trick them or to trick them into thinking something. Now, the only real way I can see Jiraya winning is if he gets him in the Toad Genjutsu, the audio one, right? Now, even if he does hypothetically manage to summon Manpa, which I don't think he would be able to, get into Sage Mode, which I still don't think he would be able to quite keep up with Kakashi. And even if he does put him into a Genjutsu, we gotta remember that Kakashi survived Itachi's Genjutsu, and I refuse to believe that the Sage Toad Genjutsu is anywhere on the level of Tsukuyomi. Now, if we were to flip it the other way around, Kakashi hasn't shown any crazy Genjutsus, but it doesn't really take too much to get Jiraya confused. We gotta remember that Jiraya gets caught in basic Genjutsus like the one that was pulled on him to lure Naruto away from Jiraya. Obviously, he came to his senses afterwards, but he was caught in it for a good amount of time. And it's not like this was Tsukuyomi or something. This was just a regular Genjutsu. So he's not very good at recognizing when he's in it. One more reason why I think Kakashi would win is that they both are aware of each other. You know, they both talk to each other. They both know of each other, right? And Jiraiya is one of the three legendary Sannin, so I'm pretty sure, this is a little bit of headcanon here, but I'm pretty sure that Kakashi would be a little bit more on edge than Jiraiya, right? Obviously, Kakashi's won his name as the infamous copy ninja, but that's not quite on the level of Sannin, so I feel like, if anything, Jiraiya would be initially underestimating Kakashi. But anyways, if I left anything out, don't forget to let me know down below. If you guys like more discussion videos like this, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.